Tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies. Too bright for our infirmed delight, the truth's superb surprise. Is lightning to the child eased with explanation kind, the truth must dazzle gradually, lest everyone be blind. This is one of my favorite poems by Emily Dickinson, but it actually captures something really important about the conversation that we were having this past Sunday as part of our Inspired series. See, we're talking about poetry, and Scott was leading us through a conversation about the ways in which the scriptures speak to us, the ways in which we interpret scriptures in poetry through the lens of Jesus, the way that poetry is able to bring together disparate ideas, even contradictory ideas, and show us how they coexist in the same space. And here's one of the things about poetry I think we miss at times when we read it in the scriptures. We have this understanding of how poetry works, the fact that it uses literary devices, metaphors and similes, analogies. When we read that God is a rock, we understand that God is not literally a rock. This is pointing to something true about God. But the truth is, all of prose uses these devices. Prose uses metaphor, prose uses simile, prose uses analogy. What's different about poetry is not simply the employment of a literary device, it is the way in which it comes at an idea on the slant. The way that it slowly, gradually brings us into an understanding of something that we might not be ready for. That's what Emily Dickinson is talking about when she talks about telling the truth but telling it slant, coming from a new angle, speaking in new ways that are unexpected about things. This is what the poetry of the Psalms do. They don't just use a literary device like a metaphor, they speak about God in ways that are counterintuitive, in ways that challenge our presuppositions, sometimes in ways that reinforce the things that we want to know about God, that God is like us, God is violent like us, God is retributive like us. But then on the back end, poetry will slip in this subversive element that undermines our expectations and moves us towards something better, exactly the way that Jesus does. This is what's so important about understanding genre in the scriptures. Not just verses, not just words, not just devices, but the genre of poetry and the way that it is working to illuminate something we're not quite ready to name for ourselves. That's what poetry does for us. Regardless of whether you are reading the scriptures or a modern poet today, there are ways in which these words are designed to help you notice something you're not quite ready to notice. And only in poetry do we encounter this same kind of subversive element over and over again, challenging our expectations, forcing us to go back and look again, and wondering about where God might be doing something completely unexpected and new in our hearts. As you read the poetry of the Bible this week, whether that is the Psalms, whether it is the poetry of the prophets, whether it is simply the poetry that comes to us in the wisdom literature of Job and Ecclesiastes or the Song of Solomon, look for the ways that these poets are intentionally trying to subvert your expectations of their words. Look for more than just a literary device, but look for the ways in which this poet is saying something unexpected to you, the ways that this poet is setting you up with things that you already understand, so that they can slip in things you may be only beginning to uncover in your journey today. May you trust that Jesus is walking with you even now, using the language that you understand to speak to you about this moment, but also giving you clues and hints, whispers and poetry about where Jesus is taking you and what you might be able to imagine on the other side of where this story takes you.